Okay, so this is feedback on discussion board 2, and I'm using a different format to give you feedback, and it's a format that you could use for your blog if you wanted to. So this is a PowerPoint presentation, and it's done in QuickTime, which allows you to talk over the presentation. So you can use pictures and text and whatever. I'm just going to use the questions, the text from the discussion board. So here's first question from Jordan. I'm curious as to why English is so popular. Also, what do you think the world would be like if, say, Japanese or Russian were just as if not more popular than English? Well, you get a feel for that if you've ever seen that adaptation of the Philip K. Dick novel, Man in the High Castle, which is a counterfactual. What would happen if the Germans and Japanese had won the war and they divide the United States? Japan has the west coast and Germany has the east coast. And you get an idea then of what it would be like if these other languages were more popular. But the word popular is not the correct word here. English is dominant because of the nature of the most powerful countries in the world are English speaking in terms of the United States, of course. So it's something that follows military and trade dominance, that is the language that it's used, just in the way that Latin was the dominant language in the 2,000 years ago. Arabic and now Chinese is becoming more dominant. It used to be a very dominant language based upon um, power, based upon economic, military, political power. Carl says, I know English is left to right, Hebrew is right to left, and Kuktayore is east to west. Is there any other examples? And Carl notes that from the past in Asia, they were using top to bottom. Right. And so Japanese, for example, can go top to bottom. Um, Interesting, there are no scripts that really go from bottom to top. Um, these are all kinds of conventions that were set down thousands of years ago by scribes. Scribes were the only people who were able to read and write. And so some languages started off by using both left to right and right to left. That was the case with Greek, early written Greek. So it really is conventionalized. And I can't think of any other particular types of script other than the ones you mentioned, Carl. Nick says, my question is, would it actually be more beneficial following the Kuuk-Taayor way of understanding time and space and direction? Do the pros and cons make it more beneficial to stick with the right to left way? Well, interesting. Certainly, the sense of direction that the Kuuk-Taayor children learn is remarkable. They also learn left and right. That's the influence of English. Um, but so the best system would be have combinations of east and west and left to right. Interestingly, the Kuuk-Taayor children, there's not many of them left actually, it's a dying language, but they learn spatial dimensions much quicker than, say, English-speaking children or any language that uses left to right. Left and right are a concept, and you probably remember this when you were a kid, which take a long time to learn. In fact, some people still have problems with left and right. So most kids learn the distinction about a left and right probably when they're about 7 or 8. The Kuuk-Taayor children learn how to use geographic coordinates like east and west by the age of 2. So there's a huge, great advantage then. The Kuuk-Taayor children are less likely to get lost than left-right children. Mitchell says, I didn't see any specific information on bilingual speakers. Any comments on what it would be like to grow up 50-50 with two different languages? Well, one thing that you learn, of course, is different conceptual schemata. That's the way of arranging the world according to associations of semantic relationships between words. So, for example, if you say the word house in English, you're probably going to associate that with door, windows, room. If you say that word in Spanish, you're probably more likely to get associations with mother, father, sister, brother. So, bilinguals, one interesting thing about them is they have these different semantic networks depending upon the language. Layali asks, when reading over the other ARCQ QCs, I saw the question, why do other languages have gendered language? I've also wondered the same. What does certain gendered words imply about that language and culture? Um, well, I don't think it really implies a lot about the culture so much. It implies something about the linguistic system. The word gender originally comes from genus, which means type, and languages vary according to the way they have different noun classification systems. So the word gender actually is a misnomer or misleading in the sense it's not really referring to what we understand as male and female. It's referring to a classification of nouns, and usually that classification follows some kind of structural element. So all words that end in a certain way are classified as one particular group, and all words that end in another way, spelled in a different way, are classified in another way. Remember that many languages like German have three classifications: male, masculine, feminine, and neuter. Um, and they don't always follow what we understand to be the gender in the social world. So, for example, a young girl in German Mädchen is neuter, which is a strange classification, but it's based upon the actual spelling and formation of the word. Other languages may have up to 8 or 9 or 10 different classifications, and those go beyond masculine and feminine to take in other kinds of concepts like vegetable. Um, so it really is not to do with what we understand to be gender, but to do with the different types of nouns and how they're grouped together. Um, Alex Chu says, we're two languages that have very different cultures, but no grammatical gender, such as English and Chinese, describe the two bridges similar to each other. I'm guessing probably yes, right? That particular experiment, the original experiment, was an attempt to see just what residual kind of influence the gender system had on the Spanish and German speakers. So I'm presuming that our Chinese, like English, not having a gender system, the results would probably be the same. Alex Kramer asks, I think the idea of linguistic relativity is very interesting, and especially how the Spanish speaker and the German speaker would describe the word for bridge differently. My question is, if they showed them two separate pictures of bridges like the ones we saw during the lecture, would all the adjectives to describe both of them be similar or different? Well, if they saw the picture plus the text, and what I was trying to do there was trying to replicate that experiment in English, which of course is very difficult to do because we don't have a gender system. So that's why I was using the name of a female bridge and the name of a male bridge, trying to see if that would influence the way that you describe the bridges. So what I'm guessing is that it could be. I mean, if it was Spanish speakers doing that, seeing those pictures, then the Benjamin Harrison Bridge would align with what they understand a bridge to be, which is masculine. And the other bridge, the female bridge, I think, what was it, the Queen, whatever it was, would be kind of confusing to them. So I don't know. It might be interesting to do. Yeah. Okay, Michael asks, in the United States, especially in Ohio, we say pop, but in most states in the South they say soda. So in this manner, do you think that this could be proof that that uh, the way that you think shapes your language? No, I'm not convinced of that. That's really kind of a dialectal difference. So that's not really evidence of thinking differently. Would be interesting, of course, is that in the South as well they use the word Coke to describe the word soda. So I don't know if more Coke is drank in the South. If you're growing up and the word for soda is the same as one particular brand name, you might expect that that would influence you to drink more of that particular drink. So I don't know. Cameron asks, language clearly affects the way we see the world. Well, I don't know if it clearly affects. It has an influence on it, right? Um, I'm interested to see how certain speech communities within the English language affect the way people see the world. How different is my view of the world compared with someone who grew up in a poor southern town? Well, the differences are really going to be social difference rather than are determined by social differences rather than by the language. In a sense, you're speaking both the same language, you're both in the same speech community, totally different discourse communities, of course, and th- that discourse community, may have some way of influencing the way you view the world, but substantially, it's not language that's going to be the main major variable there. It's going to be social, economic conditions. Peter says, what are some of the positive and negative effects of an initiation as described in the other lecture, sense of belonging versus barrier to others? Um, yeah, it's hard to see it in terms of positive and negative effects. Another word for initiation is liminality. That's a word from anthropology, and it refers to threshold, going through the threshold through a door from one world into another. And if it's a door, then you're going to probably have to have some mechanism of gatekeeping, right? So that the right people come through the door and join the group and show solidarity with the group. So in that sense, I guess that's a positive thing that you're trying to allow into the group people who will be supportive of it rather than divisive. I'm thinking of other initiations in a broader sense in terms of cultures and their special type of food. Every culture seems to have a stinky food. So if you really want to be part of that culture, you need to be able to eat that food. So if you eat the food and say, hey, this is cool, I like this, then it's an indication that you're going to be a very supportive member of that community. Okay, thanks for all that feedback. And remember, coming up soon is the first blog. So you don't have to use written text. You can use a PowerPoint like I've done now, or you can use an actual movie.